trees, your yellow leaves move me. Dancing moves your painted red shakes the room. When I get there, I'll let my feet roll. When I get there, I'll break in your arms, I'll lose control. When I get there, I'll know the answer. Let me know when I get closer.
Hey everybody, happy Monday. This is Overpass Live. I'm Eric, I make apps. This is the weekly live stream where we talk about whatever we want to talk about. We just have a chat and we, hang out and talk about what's new in the app world and just completely wing it. Now for the last couple of weeks, I've had a guest and I've had loads of technical problems. So today, no guest, it's just going to be me. And I'm going to try to keep it a bit shorter today, mainly because Boris Johnson is giving us an address at like 7 p.m. in about an hour's time. And he's already done it in front of the House of Commons about the easing of lockdown and everything like that, but still would be something I want to check out and I want to watch. So I'm going to try to keep it a little bit shorter today than normally. And so in terms of last week, it's been kind of busy. I did the live stream with Steve Pyung on Friday. That was kind of cool. He's also a lot more professional at this kind of stuff than I am. I did do a video last week about our developers terrible, based on that comment that somebody left, which is a really interesting. A lot of people talked about some really cool stuff, including like arrogant developers and stuff like that. And I don't know if you guys got this, but I got the email from AdMob this week talking about how ad limiting is going to be limiting all applications for review when they start up. So again, it's like another review process for using AdMob and stuff like that. So I want to talk a little bit about that today, if there's time. But let's just see who's here. Let's see, we've got Moran Deer is here. Hello, hey, how's it going? Chord Funk, you up? We're up, Chord Funk. Zero Supremacy, hey, how's it going? So it was a cool live with Steve. Yeah, it was kind of fun. It was fun. It was nice not to have to think about, like he mentioned it when he was on my live stream where he didn't have to think about any of the technical issues. And I kind of felt the same way on his. It was just like a nice conversation and stuff like that. And it was one of the things, when I think about the live streams that we do each week, like people say, hey, can you look at my app? Like, sure. And then we're messing around with, what's the app called? Is this the right one? All that kind of stuff. So his having the link where you register beforehand, I thought that was really cool. A lot more structure, a lot more what was professional, I guess is the word. So what I want to talk about first here today is I dropped something. Let's see, let me just show my desktop here. I want to talk about, I don't know if you guys got this email from AdMob saying submit newly linked apps for review to lift the serving limit. So this whole thing about, one of the questions I get all the time is about why is my why is AdMob limiting my ads, right? And for me, I haven't had a whole lot of issue with it because it was a long time ago when I created a lot of my existing apps. But they do talk about the ad limit serving here. And what I thought was really interesting here was this ad limit impacts publishers for less than 30 days typically, but they did talk about how it only affects AdMob network only and doesn't affect third-party mediation, which is a very good reason to have mediation networks because you never know. I noticed this when I've had my AdMob stopped for a while. It was like I had this mediation network, I had AppLovin, and I saw AdMob just go, flat. And AppLovin pick up. And it wasn't as much. That's the reason I was using AdMob, but at least it's a fallback. We have this stuff on here. So it was just something to think about, something to consider going forward. I know we talk a lot about, one of the questions I get asked all the time is about AdMob and ad limiting. And so it's nice that that's going out there. Also, I've noticed that AdMob is putting out a lot more webinars and stuff like that. So they seem to be answering a lot more questions and being more present and all that kind of stuff, which I think is really good. Let's see. Chansa says, hello, hey, how's it going? Chansa, Rondier says he is more professional. He is, isn't he? Well, you know, I'm kind of why bother. I'm kind of at the why bother train when it comes to ads at the moment. Too risky. Yeah, I'm kind of thinking that way too. I think it's just because so many people just leapt onto it, right? I'm really, I mean, one of the things is ever since I saw that movie or that documentary on Netflix, The Social Dilemma, I would talk about how it's, it's not just fake news, but fake news is driven by advertising. So, I mean, any kind of thing. So the clickbaits, the fake news, and trying to put stuff out there, whether you believe it or not, because you need to serve those serve those ads. And advertising in general is just, it's this whole ad model has caused our society just go crazy. But it's also, when you have to compete on the playing field you're on. So if everybody else has a free application, it's all well and good to say you're going to charge for it, but sometimes you have to do that. So that's definitely something to think about. Kevin Hawthorne's here. Hey, Kevin, how's it going? As If Gaming, I love that name. Ads limit placed on my AdMob account 10 days ago. What to do next? How much time to take to get it removed? Well, they did say that it takes about 30 days, as if. And do you have like a mediation network in there? Do you have something else? Because if it is just AdMob is affecting, then at least maybe you should think about putting Facebook Audience Network or App11 on there as a backup. So let's see. Fist 007, it's been a long time since I haven't been here. Yeah, cool. Welcome back. Let's see. Morandier says, what's the risk about it? Is it the risk of banned AdMob account or something else, Cordfunk? Yeah, I mean, if they limit it, this is the thing. It's the nice thing about AdMob is not the only game in town. And that's why when we talk about the limit, AdMob limiting your ads, you can have those the mediation networks in there. And I mean, let's say you just had like a free app with no ads, and you had in-app purchases. I kind of think that I've always thought that the ads help to encourage people to make those in-app purchases because it's just like another plus. I don't think it's enough on its own. Like I haven't had a whole lot of success with the remove ads feature of any of my apps. It's been like people were just like, I'm sure they would have liked to remove the ads. They complained about the ads, but they weren't willing to pay to remove them. But if it was in addition to something else, then I think it just helps. It's like one extra value add for upgrading to like a pro version or something like that. And thanks everyone for the thumbs up, by the way. Let's see. Fist was how you doing? I'm doing okay. So there's some good news today. Well, I guess good news because it's slower than I thought, but at least there's a roadmap to the end of lockdown. Just sort of over the next few months, which is promising. It's nice to hear some good news for once. I've been doing a lot of business has just picked up a lot lately. I mean, getting contacted by a lot of people looking for new projects, for new development projects and stuff like that. And I've been doing a lot of stuff myself. So I've been doing a lot of stuff with Firebase. I love working with Firebase and Firestore. And not just Firestore, but with Cloud Functions and Firebase storage. So the whole thing. So it's nice to have something where having a serverless architecture, but having everything going through the same place, being like just a Firebase instance. So I've been doing a lot of stuff with Firebase, both with Flutter and with Xamarin. Xamarin is a bit more tricky because the documentation is geared a lot more towards Azure services, but there's still some stuff out there for that. So I've been doing a lot of coding in that direction, and a little bit of Angular, but I'm like I really don't like working with the later versions of Angular. Like every time I start to do something, it's like, and for a while, Fist 007, we talked about Blazor. When you talked about Blazor, I was thinking about just doing all my web stuff's gonna be done with Blazor. And after making that hardcore decision, just like, dude, that's what I'm gonna do. Then I realized it was really hard to find libraries and dependencies and code samples and stuff like that. I was constantly have to escape out of Blazor into the JavaScript bridge in order to do anything that was like Firebase, like connecting to Firebase and using Firebase libraries and stuff like that. So That's a long answer to how you doing. Yes, AdMob might be throttled or banned altogether. That's probably the biggest risk. Okay, one risk that I do, I'm more concerned about my apps. Like, I'm more concerned about Google Play removing my app than AdMob. Because at least if Google Play removes your app, then you can't serve any ads at all. You can't have any purchases. You can't do whatever. But like AdMob's kind of like that cherry on top. And I don't think it should be the whole meal, right? So it should be that bit where you have. Now, sometimes I worry about the ads causing like maybe an inappropriate ad being shown or something like that and causing some sort of violation of Google Play policy. But I also feel that because I'm using AdMob with Google Play, that if they show an inappropriate ad, that's their fault. Like, I'm doing everything that they said to do. But Bizwajit, what's up, everyone? Hey, Bizwajit, you got a new avatar. Also, for ads to be effective, they would have to be targeted. And in 2021, I think that ship has sailed. Yeah, I mean, I feel the same way. But right now, it's just academic, right? We assume that that everything's gonna fall apart, and but we have to see what happens. But yeah, it is like if you're just getting into it, you might want to look around and see how other people are, how their apps are doing. Let's see. Fistobo says, have you heard the Flutter animation jaking on iOS? No, I don't know what that means. As if Gaming says, I tried Audience Network and earning is 10% of AdMob. Yeah, I mean, but at least when AdMob is limiting your ads, if AdMob is limiting your ads, then at least that Facebook should keep up. So like 10% as opposed to whatever, nothing. So, but yeah, but there's other ad networks out there. I mean, AppLovin is one, but I guess, what's that? And a lot of them, I don't even like, it's like, I don't even know what's still out there. Like, I don't know if a lot of them have gone the way of Ask Jeeves or whatever. But I don't. Let me ask you guys, aside from AdMob, for those guys who do advertising revenue, what other networks are you using, right? And how are you finding that? Because I've done many videos about that in the past. And so, Fist Up says, how are your Xamarin skills doing? They're doing really good. I mean, Xamarin is easy because it's C# and it's a language that I know pretty well. I mean, it's kind of, it's because I was using it for a long time before. So it's kind of nice to get back into that. Just using something like Link, Link is something that I really enjoy using. But there's actually like a lot, like even like Flutter has a Link equivalent. Like somebody made a package that was inspired by Microsoft Link. So I'm using that in a lot of stuff too. Like I just want to retrieve my data one time, and then just because of network traffic and stuff like that, I want to retrieve the data one time. And then like if I have a page for one category and a page for another category, I want to just be able to have it like requery that same data set without having to go back to the server. And that's one of the things like Link does. And when I've done that in JavaScript in the past, it's just been like I'm looping through a bunch of stuff, or I'm loading everything into different stuff. So we'll see. Corey said, that I agree with. Having ads as a kind of annoyance is the only benefit with them. I personally have never been particularly successful with ads. I was successful with ads. I mean, I was surprised at how well ads did. And at one point I decided I was just gonna make all my apps free. I was, just because I thought that was working really well. But you do need to have like a lot of impressions just to make any kind of revenue with them. And then so many people have said on the live stream that they because they've seen a surge in traffic, then that surge in traffic for whatever reason, they're doing well. Like they're getting a lot more traffic to their apps, they're getting a lot more downloads, and then that's when AdMob limits it because they're not quite sure. They need to investigate to find out what's going on, which is it kind of sucks. Buzwaji says, what is a good conversation? What a good conversation rate for app install Google Ads campaign? Let's see. So if you're talking about you're taking on Google Ads, I don't. It's the it would be the click-through, right? I mean, when we talk about conversion rate, are you talking about the actual ad click-through versus the impression, or are you talking about the ad click-through versus the install? Because the ad, like, because it really, because, yeah, it really depends. Or are you talking about when when you're actually making revenue? Yeah, let me know about that one. Yo, Eric, yo, Cord Funk. I might be moving to a company that does .NET, Vue.js, and Xamarin. Any tips? It's, let's see, does .NET, Vue.js, and Xamarin. I don't think I've used Vue.js. I mean, I've looked at it a little bit, but okay, here's something I do not like about Xamarin is that you can't just go into Xcode and just start messing around with stuff. You can't just go into load the Android the Android project up in Android Studio or start messing around with the Gradle files. All of that stuff is obfuscated and kept away from you, unless there's some hacky way of doing it. But every time I use Visual Studio for Mac, and I use Writer from JetBrains. So those are the two IDEs I use, and they do a good job of keeping the info.p lists. You can edit the info.p list, but sometimes it's nice just to load something into Xcode because everything's up to date. They do keep a good job of keeping them up to date, but it's like it takes you away from something that you should be able to do. You should be able to just go and tinker around with. But let's see. Yeah, it's a Microsoft world. This is one of the things I found when I left work doing a lot of the jobs I was doing in Microsoft shops. Is like Microsoft developers are very much Microsoft. They're like, they like to, well, back in the day, like the early, like in 2011, 2012, 2013, the Microsoft developers, they were like, yeah, Windows Phone is going to take over. And it was kind of this whole, it was like an alternative. It's like LinkedIn is to Facebook, right? It's not quite as cool, but it's still okay. Like, it's like, it's got this own little ecosystem, and it's they try to do a lot of the same things, but it's just kind of weird, and it feels forced. That's what a lot of the Microsoft tools felt like to me. But when you work with really good Microsoft developers, they've been doing it for a long time. They're just as good as, I don't know. I've met a lot of really good C# developers where they talk about dependency injections and dependency injections and unit testing and all that kind of stuff. They're in it. Whereas like it's very easy to be like me, where you just go from language to language to language, and then you like become a generalist, which is not a good thing. I'm just really rambling on tonight, aren't I? Ben Muhammad. Hey, Ben, how's it going? What's up, Eric? What's up, Ben? How do you get leads or paying clients? What processes do you advise? Not Upwork. No, I want to do Upwork. If you go on Upwork, you're standing in a sea of people, and all of them are, they're all kind of the same. I mean, whenever I hire for somebody from Upwork, I don't go, oh, he's good. Like, I'm like, okay, well, yeah, he looks like he'll be acceptable. Right, but and Ben, this is why being able to having your own portfolio is really, really important. So be able to put your own apps out there, but also being able to, you might need to do outbound reaching, but ideally you do something where people could just find you. So like a lot of the stuff I do with the content marketing and just the YouTube videos is people just find me, which is, it's a lot easier, but it's also a lot more work to do that, to establish like a presence there. In the beginning, I was doing a lot of like outbound stuff, a lot of SEO. My whole thing is that if somebody calls me, like I get developers contact me all the time, and they'll either call me on the phone, which I'm really, like if I get a lot of development companies call me and they get a very irritated Eric because I'm in the middle of something else. I'm like, what is it you want? Like, and they usually have like a cold calling salesperson or whatever that doesn't know anything technical. So like, if I do ask any question, they'll like, I'd like to set up a meeting with our managing director. It's like, forget it. No, like, like, you got me on the phone. You got me on the phone now. You got my attention. Answer some of my questions, which is might be unfair of me. So I hate doing that. And I kind of think if I need something, I go online and I search for it. So SEO is important. Having a good website is important. And having like a lot of content out there. So if you produce a lot of content, you could cover a lot of different areas where people will search for something and they'll find you, and you can be known for that thing. So, but when you're in Upwork, you're basically you're the lowest bidder, right? You're just you are putting yourself up there as a commodity. Now, I've never done any work through Upwork. I've hired people through Upwork, and I know that it's like if I'm looking at Upwork and I'm looking for like let's say I'm looking for an Objective-C developer, right? And I see somebody who's $100 an hour, and I see somebody who's $5 an hour. I obviously know that the guy $100 an hour is better, right? But is he like that much better? Like, is it so then like my natural thing would be like, maybe I'll go to like the middle of the road. Like maybe I'll go to like, 30 or 40 and check that out to $30 or $40 an hour to check that out, right? So it's like already the person who is like, you're already limiting yourself, right? Because you're being judged based on that price that's on you, as opposed to you somehow stood out above and beyond based on your stuff. So yeah, I hope that makes sense. I don't like the idea of that. The same way, the same like, you're just putting yourself, you're just mixing yourself with the whole pile, right? You're like an M&M in a bowl of M&Ms, right? As opposed to, you're the chocolate Easter egg that you find on Christmas morning because that's, because you just stand out so much. Dude, makes any sense? Rendezvous, hey, how's it going? Do you think Firebase gives you enough space to fiddle with its features? Yeah, in fact, okay, this is a good question. I'm finding it like, because I know that you could do a lot of stuff on Google Cloud Platform, and I get annoyed whenever I have to do something where I have to leave Firebase and go to Google Cloud Platform. Like this last week, I was writing a migration script, and everything is working. So I've got everything working from like an admin site done in Angular. I've got the apps done in the different app languages, and I wanted to just write a Node.js script, which would just like migrate data from one system to Firebase. And a lot of it used the Firebase storage API. And from that, you had to go in and then I was stuck in IAM. I was stuck into the generating the key and downloading the JSON file and everything like that. And it's very similar to like with AWS, like whenever you get into something like that, you're like, God, and the thing I hate about that is you get errors that are not descriptive of what the error actually is. Like you're just like thinking, okay, did I set this up wrong? Or is it something in my code? Or is it something to do with permissions? And that's something that just frustrates me. But for the most part, I think that Firebase does most of what I need to. So if I need to interact with another system, I can set up API calls that go from Cloud Functions. So I could either call the Cloud Functions directly from with my application, or more likely what I would do is have a trigger on one of the objects. So I put I update or create a Firebase document, and the trigger off that document will pick that up, read the data, and then do something with it. That's the way it should work, but we have this cold restart problem, which we talked about last week. But for the most part, that's what you can do. If I needed like a reporting database, and I definitely want to have a SQL-based database there, that's something that Firebase can't do. However, I could have something where I have a trigger on all the Firebase objects where I keep a SQL database in sync, which I've done that before too. Mainly what I like is if I need to send a push notification, I have everything there, right? It's just really easy to do that. You just generate your iOS key for the iOS side, Android, easy because it's Firebase, and then you can have the cloud functions send the push notifications off. You could do the the database security. So authentication is already taken care of out of the box. The security rules, if you don't set those up right, they email you every day saying, this whatever application doesn't have the right security protocols. Anybody can write to it. And then you also got analytics and crash reporting. So you've got everything there in the box. And if you were to use something else like AWS or Azure, you still have everything in the box, except you'd have to set up another Firebase instance anyway, because you need that for Android push notifications. So it's like they have that monopoly on that kind of stuff. But I think, I haven't really seen a lot of limitations with it. And maybe I'm being naive in that way, but I mean, have you? Let's see. Fist was up. Yeah, I feel you. The Blazor ecosystem isn't there yet. However, if using with SQL Server, so I have everything covered there. Yeah, I know. That's like a lot of Microsoft tools. And it's always been that way. It's been that. Oh well, you're using Xamarin, so obviously you're using Azure as a back end. So most everything is geared towards that way in terms of documentation. And there's a few people who aren't, but it was always that way with I remember with ASP.NET and even using like MVC framework. It was very easy initially. Everything was SQL Server based. All the documentation was like, say when you connect to SQL Server, and you're like, well, what if I want to connect to MySQL? What if I want to connect to something else? It was like, so you think about SQL Server, and it was like that, that they merged together too much. But it's not always the case, and that's very generalistic thinking. But like, if this is what I found. Like, I was doing an app with Xamarin connecting to Firebase, and I just kept getting all these kind of issues where, okay, I want to integrate Crashlytics with my Xamarin application, but that wasn't working for some reason. I got everything else working, but Crashlytics wasn't. It was just kind of a pain. Everything just seemed like it was taking a long time. And then I moved over to Flutter, and Flutter and Firebase were like, they worked really well together. Not so much because the technologies merged together, but because that combination was like peanut butter and jelly. Like, so many people knew about it. There was so much documentation about it. Like, if you want to say, how do I connect to Firebase through Flutter? How would I do with Firebase and Flutter? Somebody's written about it. Somebody's tried to do that before, and you're basically using the building blocks. You're not trying to reinvent the wheel and everything like that. But that's just my opinion. There are some issues with Metal on iOS. They moved from OpenGL. Oh, okay. Oh, is that the Firebase thing? Hello, Eric. Hey, Ahmed. How's it going? Let's see. Issues with the shaders, I think it was. For the Flutter animation jaking bug on iOS, animations are freezing and lagging due to shades being compiled. Okay. Ironically, I think it's only on the newer iPhone, or am I wrong? Ooh, just okay. Well, let's see. Not really sure. I think, but it's due to the renderer being switched from OpenGL to Metal. Okay. Well, that's something I should probably think about. I think I read somewhere that it was on the newer iPhone. I wasn't aware of it before I saw the video by the tech lead. Well, hopefully it'll be something they sort out soon. Let's see. Leonardo Leo. Hey, Leo. Leo, how's it going? What do you think about fleeceware? What is fleeceware? Is fleeceware like, is it like spam kind of thing? It sounds like a spam thing. Okay, yeah, I probably should know what this is, Leo. I mean, well, maybe we should all know what this is. So fleeceware is a type of malware application that comes with hidden excessive subscription fees. These applications take advantage of users who do not know how to cancel subscription to keep charging them how long after they delete an application. As of 2020, more than 600 million users installed Android fleeceware apps from the Play Store. Yeah, that sucks. I mean, this is one of the things where, like, one of the reasons why when I see the you open up a new application and they say whatever, subscribe. Like that's the first thing you're hit with. You're like, subscribe to this or the 7-day trial. Screw the 7-day trial. The 7-day trial is definitely the way that you're gonna forget about it, and then you know 7 days goes by, right? I don't trust the 7-day trial, but yeah, I mean that seems like the kind of thing that they would clamp down on if the, you know, at some point, the same way they do with all the ad tracking and everything. Could be since the metal library requires fancy GPU chips. Let's see. What is your let's see, Faster Blaster. What is your top countries and language for Google Play local ASO localization? So it's my biggest application. The U.S. has always been the top. I mean, always. You know, and there were different times. Like Brazil was one that became the second top one for like a long time. And it was kind of like other countries came and went, but it was like the big one. So when I went to localize it into different languages, I went for I go for Russian, Spanish, Portuguese, Chinese, both simplified and traditional, and Korean. So you know those were the language that I covered. I didn't really bother with any of the others, but yeah, that was something that I that's like out of the box. That's what I do. Now, some of my other applications, I went and just did every single language that was available. And the problem with doing that, and the problem with doing localizations in general, is that as soon as you want to change something, it becomes difficult. You got to go back to the translators. You got to like, I just need to have a little pop-up that says, whatever, system's going down. I mean, what you wouldn't say that, but you'd say something like, maybe rather than say play, we'll say start, or rather than say start, we'll say play. Oh, then, but I've got all this stuff translated in that one language. So but I would say those were the 5 languages that I would get translated into first. Let's see. Vue.js, I know. Xamarin and .NET, I don't know. Yeah, it's not that difficult to do. A lot of it is out of the box. Like if you were to, it's a bit like Flutter. Like it's like you start something, you have the, when you start it through Visual Studio, they'll give you the basics of it. It uses a lot of the Flutter. I think it's the Xamarin a lot of the Xamarin for Form stuff uses the MVVM model, just out of the box. Like this is to be like if you set up a demo project, that's the way they kind of set it up for you. So that does make it easier. And I do like, just from my Silverlight days, doing the MVVM model view model pattern, which is I did enjoy doing that. Let's see, man, I was so bullish on Windows Phone. Yeah, yeah. I think I remember thinking Windows Phone was like, I remember thinking it was terrible, and then somebody wrote an article about how innovative it was, because it was like where Android was trying to look a lot like iPhone at the time. Windows Phone was like, we're going to do something completely different. We're going to go tiles. We're going to do all this. So it was like, let's see. Fisto said, I'm a Microsoft guy and I can agree with what he just said. They talked about moving the Xamarin code to Flutter, though. We talked about it quite a bit about Flutter when we first met them. So, okay, well, that's cool. That goddamn jank issue, I hope they get that sorted out. Such a great framework. It would be a shame that it would be the reason people will not work with it. Yeah, I mean, is it? I don't even know. I have to look into that. I have not even, I haven't even seen anything about it, but it does seem like it's just a short. I mean, a lot of this stuff, when you're dealing with frameworks, you just have to wait for it to catch up with it. And is it, when we talk about being on Metal, is this on the newer? It's on the newer iPhones. Okay, we're not talking about like that whole, the ARM chip, and you could run it on your computers and stuff like that. Bizwajit says, I've started the campaign on 21 February till today. It's the 22nd of February. The average conversion rate for the app install is 5.41. For today, average conversion install rate is at 33%. The average conversion rate of app installs is 5.4. The average conversion app install rate is, okay, so it's actually lower than that. Maybe you're attracting the wrong people. Like, You think about it, when somebody finds your app through the search, they're looking for something, and I mean, if you could, you, do they still have that on the Google Play where you could see what the search terms are that people are actually finding it through? Because that might be the kind of thing you want to appeal to in the ads. Like if you were going to do an ad for something and people are come to, and you're snagging those people in and they're coming to your application and they're getting there for some reason, they're of a different mentality of the people who are searching for it and finding it. Ben says, "You're the man, Eric. We'll be out of Corona soon. I can feel it. I feel it too. Feel it in my bones. Feel it in my plums." Let's see. Goldwing says, "Do you think we should have a second? I should have a second AdMob account." I've never had one. I mean, it's. I don't think you can. I think is it against the terms and conditions? Because even just to check the stats, you have to set up another email address. You have to make sure you check that email address so you get notified of anything that happens. Like whenever somebody says they set up multiple Google Play or AdMob accounts, I always think it sounds like a lot more trouble than it's worth. But I don't know. Let's see. What do you think? So Harry D says, where do you see the mobile ad market in 5 years? I think it's if you look at something like App Annie does this report every year, the state of mobile report, that might not be what it's called, but it comes out in January. It came out last month, I think. I think it's January. But anyway, they do it. They always have these future projections of ad revenue and stuff like that, and it's always really positive. But then you have to think about the source. I mean, App Annie are app people, so of course they're gonna lean in that way. I think a lot of the people like when GDPR happened, we had to start asking for whether or not we could personalize the ads. So that at least we had to over here. And I thought that was the end of ads. I thought that's it. Who's gonna say, yeah, I want personalized ads? But I didn't really see much of a downturn on it, and it seems it's still going on. This is one of those reasons why I think we could try to predict that the iOS 14 point, the iOS IDFA permission thing is going to be bad for ads, and it probably will, but I think it will recover. I think that what the problem we're having at the moment is there's so many people out there who are frauding the system, right? I mean, there's a few years ago where every time I get contacted by people all the time saying, "Do you think if I self-clicked but I use a VPN, do you think they could catch me?" I'm like, Don't do that. Don't that's like you're basically taking from somebody who's placing ads. So so where do I think I'll be in the next 5 years? I don't think it will grow. I think it's going to get more and more difficult. I think these rules that have come in to the AdMob limitations and all that kind of stuff. All of this is because of we're constantly being flooded with ads, right? And it's like I said, it's not just apps. It's every single news site that's out there. Every single website that's got AdSense has this, and every YouTube channel with clickbait titles and all this kind of stuff. It's like everybody's trying to make money through this one medium that is just weird, right? We can't all be selling and nobody buying. We can't all be selling and nobody making. At some point, we have to be the people who make stuff. So I do think it's gonna. I think it's gonna get more difficult. I think the revenue is gonna go lower, and mainly it's because you have so many more placements. Let's say if I wanted to, let's say if you have a newspaper, and if they have 5 ad placements, those ad placements are going to be expensive, right? If they have ads on every single page, they're going to charge a lot less for them because the supply has outstripped the demand. And I think the supply of ad placements is growing so quickly with the mobile app market that there's so many places that you could put your ads that the ad revenue, you could place ads for a lot cheaper than you ever could before. I don't know if that answers that, Harry, but I don't think it's going to get better. I think it's going to get worse. Generally, I do. I think it's going to get worse. I'm trying to like walk a fine line because I could be completely wrong, but I think it's going to be worse. Cord Funk says, "Yo, Eric, yo, Cord Funk. Do you ever think we'll move away from the brackets of Doom HTML and move to a nicer way of sending data to search engines and render things in a more consistent way?" I don't know. It's kind of like that's like moving from HTML to something else is like moving from fossil fuels to natural gas. There's so much infrastructure that depends on the old system, right? How about we'd have to get all new browsers, we'd have to like all the existing web pages would have to change. But yeah, I mean that would yeah. I mean HTML does a pretty good job of stuff, but it is funny how like something like the something that was so simple that we're still using as the foundation for all this other stuff built on top of it is funny, and really it's because of the ways that browsers interpret things. Like if you were to say all we would need is for, I mean, whenever there's like new tags that come out, like with HTML5 tags, right? They only had to get the major browsers to start supporting it. And I think in the old days, we didn't update browsers that often. Like, and now they're updated automatically. Now everything is much more like a flow of things. Nothing. Okay, we're gonna move to iOS. Sorry, we're gonna move from IE6 to IE7. Whew, let's test everything out really thoroughly. Now it's like this stuff just happens and you don't even know anything about it. So yeah, I think if Chrome were to say, yeah, we're going to support this, and Safari, we're going to say we're going to support it, and whatever, Edge, we're going to support something in Opera, and am I leaving anybody out? Every time I mention browsers, I leave somebody out, and everybody says, you didn't mention whatever. Oh yeah, Duck. No, what is it? Tor. Or so there's a lot of stuff out there, but yeah, it would be interesting. I think we're more capable of doing it now than ever before, but it would still, reverse compatibility would still have to be there. But I tried Xamarin when I tried Xamarin when it first came out, but there was so many issues. I found myself doing a lot of native development. Yeah, I kind of found that too. I found the documentation was weird. I got a course on like from Udemy on iOS. No, I think it may have been Apress. I can't remember, but it was on iOS development with Xamarin or Mono, whatever it was back then. And it was a lot of, okay, you open up Xcode, you draw your storyboard, then you go back into Visual Studio and do this. It was kind of weird. There was this merge of this kind of stuff where you still had this dependency on Xcode, but and it was complicated too. Like it was like going from native Xamarin iOS, Xamarin.iOS and Xamarin.Android was so different from each other that it was like, it's just like, might as well just learn native. But the nice thing about using Xamarin Forms, which is, it's like, it's got this, so you got this parent layer, a bit like other hybrid apps where it's like, if you need to go deeper down, you can go into those individual projects and work on that kind of stuff, or like do stuff that's specifically iOS or specifically Android. But at the same time, you can do most of your code in your parent project. So I find it to be much easier now than it was a few years ago. Code sharing promise was not met, at least not back then. Yeah. So one of the things with the code sharing, like the reason I wanted to use Blazor and Xamarin as one thing, because I wanted to have like a project where I had Blazor for my admin site, Xamarin for the application, but I wanted to have a shared model library and a shared basically it was just models, because when it came to stuff like data access and stuff like that, I wasn't comfortable with the Blazor implementation of it using WASM, because it was compiled into whatever it was. So but yeah, that code we use is definitely something I'd like to use. Let's see, Coder Python says, I left apps and just continued freelancing. How are you finding freelancing, Coder Python? And are you using Upwork? Cordfunk says it might be some tie-in to move over to ARM on Apple. I don't know. Fastball says Google Play max limit 5 language localization. No, it doesn't have max language of 5. No, it's got loads. You can do loads of them. I'm just saying that if you have to go out and invest in hiring translators, then those will be the 5 languages I'd go with first. But yeah, there's loads of languages. There's more languages in Google Play localization than there are in iOS. Client I says, looking to monetize my apps a little bit more. It's a utility app and maybe looking to remove ads option. Should I go purchase one fee or recurring sub monthly or yearly? You know what? I think you should try the subs first, right? And then fall back with the one time. Unless that one time is a, I mean, yeah, I would try to do the sub if it makes sense to do the subs, right? Just because, or you could do something where you have the subs being something like whatever, $10 a month, $100 a year, or a one-time fee of whatever, $300, and that way, I mean, which is like, I mean, depending on what the application was, that's a really like those are really high prices, I guess, but. Like, because at least that way you never know if somebody can use it lifetime, and if or that kind of stuff, you'd get that initial hit. But yeah, I would think the ideal situation would be, I mean, the one you want is a recurring subscription, right? Now the only question is whether or not people would pay for it. So that's why I say try that one first, right? Because that's the ideal one for you. If you have to maintain your back-end infrastructure, if you have to maintain whatever, even if it's not like a server-based and you don't have to maintain that, you might still have to keep updating it. You have to keep doing stuff like that. And so that recurring revenue is going to be important, going forward. So like I said, and I haven't done that with any of my applications, and I'm surprised at some of the apps that I see that are subscription-based, because I think, really, that seems like it's just be like an unlock type of thing. But so yeah, and in terms of the remove ads option, yeah, I don't think that would be enough. I think it would be like if you'd offer something else besides that. Basic basic attention token seems kind of interesting. Saw that in the ad. So that might skew the ad market. I haven't seen that with the basic attention token. Let's see. Basic attention token, a new token to value user attention on the internet. It looks too weird to me. I guess it's for me, it's, if it becomes mainstream, then I'll look into it. If it becomes something like, if it's something where you actually involving users to go and register, then I have to have a look at that. Angelina, hey Angelina, how's it going? I use Xamarin, and you have to be solid on C# and .NET in general. I've done Windows Forms, and I giggle every time I see similarities. They are so similar. Yeah, this is like, I think I was hired to do a job in Xamarin, and I had done a Windows Phone app like 10 years ago. No, it wasn't 10 years ago. Maybe 8 or 9, 7, 8 years ago, whatever. It was a Windows Phone app, and it was all based in XAML. It was XAML with a MVVM infrastructure. So it was like, so I set up my view models, I load my data, I bind to the data, I'd have to set up my value converters in order to hide in objects and stuff like that. And it was just like Silverlight. It was that very consistent thing. And what I was really surprised about Xamarin Forms was that that was it. That was the same kind of stuff. So yeah, you do have to be solid on C# and .NET, but yeah, I mean, I like working with those languages. Yeah, Harry says, yeah, the iOS 14 change impacts you differently depending on what type of apps you make. Yeah, I suppose so. Corfix says C# is a very nice language. Simple Fact Video says, Eric, did you get the notification from AdMob that the new app IDs and app will need verification? This is the one I got. I shared it at the beginning of the live stream, but I got this one, new link for submit newly linked apps for review to AdMob things. But it doesn't say that there's anything I have to do. Sign into your AdMob account, click on the add app, provide app info, including your app name and platform. I thought this is stuff that we already did before. Link your app to the App Store support. It's listed in, click add app. But I know there's a review process. But is that what we're talking? Is that what you're talking about? Simple Fact Videos? Let's see. Market Kuropati. Is that right? Says, I have a VR app with 46,000 downloads on Android. I have a job, so I can't make it better. Do you think I could raise seed money from investors by showing users? Maybe. I've never done that before. If you have something where you could where you've actually shown that there's profitability to it, I mean, you might be able to. I've never raised any kind of capital at all. Like all my apps have been self-funded. So unless there've been client applications, obviously, which was funded by the clients, but then I don't maintain any ownership of it. So yeah, I don't know, but it sounds like if you have that, like you have a proven model. What gets me is I get people who ask me to invest in their applications that don't exist. It's like, okay, I got this great app idea. You build it, and I'll do the mind stuff. Like I'll think of the new stuff, and it's like sounds like I'm doing all the work in this kind of stuff. So, but yeah, but because you have something that's actually tangible, like you say, you could show numbers. You could say, oh yeah, I know this works because it's working. Then yeah, maybe you could. Fist up with 7. If you had one billboard in the city, ad price would be out of reach. But if you had a billboard every meter, then ad costs would go directly down to hell. Ad price, yeah, you're right. Then that's kind of what I think why the ad revenue is going so low is because we have so much out there. Eric, is a good idea to make an eCPM floor for banner ads. I don't want ad clicks for 0 to 1 penny. Yeah, but that would be a good one to put house ads in. So like you think about what if you're going to have the ad floor, would you rather not serve an ad at all, or would you rather have something of your own on there? Let's see. Ahmed says, what about video watching apps? Is there as good revenues? Have you tried them? I've never tried one, not even as a user. It's no, I don't know. I mean, like in terms of a video watching app, I'm not sure, Ahmed. I've never tried one. Let's see. Fist up is heartwarming. It's heartwarming to see Eric promoting Xamarin. Look, man, I'm like, it's okay, all right. I'm like, it's Let's see. Isn't Xamarin Forms deprecated? No, they just came out with Xamarin Forms 5. Xamarin Forms 6, I think, is coming out soon. They are going to go to Maui, which is the new thing. But let's see. Using Xamarin and Blazor will allow you to factor your data access layer and save you a lot of time. Danger. Coder Python says, I use Fiverr. Oh, really? Is Fiverr working well for you? It's really good. I do Google Sheets stuff that has decent demand. Nice. Okay, the money is great for a uni student living at home and just doing it in my free time. Do you know what, Coder Python? I like the fact that you went for something that was not apps or websites or something. It was like you went for something that was definitely niche, and that's great because it would be, to me, that sounds like it'd be really boring, but it sounds like it'd be lucrative. Like, because if someone has a need, there's, I'd imagine there's not a whole lot of people doing that. Client says, Eric, thanks appreciate the input. No problem. A Singh, hey, how's it going? Hey, Eric, longtime fan here. Fantastic. Thanks. I'm glad you came. What do you think if someone copies my app and puts it live, including my ad codes, AdMob of my app, as this is generating clicks, especially invalid traffic? I don't know if it'd be generating invalid traffic, but you definitely want to report them. Yeah, I mean, it's just because I kind of get what you're thinking. It's like, I mean, they're using your ad codes, so you're still, it's still going to your AdMob account. But then, it's, yeah, it looks like to me it would look like something deceptive, and I think you should probably get them removed. There's so many. I mean, dude, don't talk to me about copycats on Google Play. There's like loads of them out there. Let's see. Morris Taylor. Hey, Morris, how's it going? I was afraid of having an Apple developer account terminate for some unknown reason, so I started learning about web development. Not sure the world needs another beginner web developer. Yeah, the world doesn't need another beginner app developer either. The world doesn't need a artist. The world doesn't need actors. The world doesn't need singers. The world doesn't need a lot of things. But so you find a way to stand out. And I mean, yeah, I think Morris, were you the one, are you the one who put a comment on this week? I was gonna respond to it about the sending me the video by the guy who's had his app store account terminated. It's weird when somebody says they don't know why their account has been terminated, and it's like, because that could be true, and it's scary to think of that. I think when I think about this kind of stuff, I used to ride a motorcycle, and every time I'd hear about somebody getting in a motorcycle accident, and it was like there was nothing they could do about it. It's scary, but there's still you can't just do things because the possibility that something could go wrong, right? It's like there's a benefit to the App Store, which is it's revenue, it gives you a bit of freedom, all that kind of stuff. So doing the stuff in apps. And when we talk about apps versus web, I mean, you still have the problem of generating income on the web too. And while the app market is huge, the web is even huger. Is even more huge. But so I did watch that video more, if that's the one we're talking about. And he was saying like his App Store account was suspended or terminated, and he had no idea why because they didn't tell him anything. But yeah, it's difficult to know that kind of stuff. For me, Apple has always been the one who at least you could get somebody on the phone, it's, I think if you're so reliant on it where it's your only income, then yeah, that's huge. Like I was flying high. Like one day I was like, king of the world, and the next day, like the App Store is like I have no money coming in. So that could be difficult. But let's see. Angelina says, question: my app uses financial questions, and I intend to save their data in my cloud data store. I am not saving P2, but other random things. How can I find out what's legal to save? I think this is one where you'd have to. I don't know about the. To be honest with you, I don't know about like legality, because I would imagine it depends on which country they're in. I do know that having a really good privacy policy is important. And now when you upload an app to iOS, they do ask you like, what kind of information do you store? So at least it feels like there's a lot more transparency there. But what is a P2? Is that a financial thing? Haters. Ravi says, Eric, finally here. How's the party going? It's going well. We were dancing earlier, right? And then some people left, and then some like a biker gang came in and started trashing up the place. We handled them, and they left. Eric, what's the best language and why Dart? Okay, what's the best language? The best language is, are you ready for it? I don't know. I guess, I don't know. I like, okay, well, let's see. Let's rank languages. I am not a fan of PHP, Objective-C, or C++, but that's because it's like way over my head. Or Ruby. I don't, Ruby was something that I don't like the look of it. I just don't like the stuff. I like C#. I think JavaScript's probably still my favorite though, just because I could do everything in it. It's more like the utility of it. Lua, I use Lua a lot, and a lot of people really like Lua, and I am not one of those people. Right? But it was like Corona used Lua, so I did a lot of stuff in Lua. I think my favorite language is probably C sharp, just because that's the one that I use a lot. But they're so similar. Like, when you go from one language to the other, you realize that a lot of this stuff is just, it's, we like, if you look at the documentation of any of them, you got the operators are mostly the same. The if statements and the loops and the whiles and the fors, and like, it's all kind of like, a lot of stuff is very, very similar. So it's mainly like kind of like I forgot to put a bracket. I forgot to put a semicolon at the end of that, or I forgot to put a curly bracket, or it's whatever. So, and other people hate JavaScript because it's not compiled, and you make a mistake in JavaScript, you can just spend days finding it. Blog Tornado says, Eric, is one per impression per 5 minutes per user too little? Thank you. I think so. Yeah, I do. I mean, personally, I do. I would try to increase that if you could. But it depends. I guess it depends on the application yourself. If you're talking about, like, if you have one interstitial, well, yeah, it's like one impression. You make a few, you make a fraction of a penny on it. But you think if it's interstitials, then you don't want to be interrupting the user too much. But I would try to push that a little bit more just to see how it does. I personally think it's like, again, your users hate ads. We all hate ads. Nobody likes ads, but once per 5 minutes is very rare for an app. See, okay, 46,000 downloads, active users are 5,000, but it's due to the fact I don't get much time to make it better, so they're uninstall it. Okay, flutter through a dart in my heart. Noob question, Ravi, you're not a noob. How do you protect your code from devs you hire remotely, as if they take your code, reskin it, publish it? Any tips? That's a really good question. It's very difficult when you hand over everything to somebody, right? You never want to get to a situation where you hand everything over to the developer. From my point of view, I've had clients ask me this too, and a lot of it, I think we put a lot of, there's been very few projects I've worked on in my career where I think that the code itself was so secret that that nobody can see it. Like, there's an algorithm or there's a calculation that's proprietary. There's been a few times. I mean, there's been quite a few times where it's been there, but I'll put it in the server or put it someplace which was not the client application itself, right? So that if I was going to give it to somebody else, they don't work on that part, right? And if it's something that's super secret, I wouldn't give it to somebody else. But if it's something where I need them to compile an app, change a button color, whatever, get something running, like, it's and plus you've hired them, you know who they are. So if you see your app in other places, then you know who to go back to. You'll be able to find out. This is one of the big nice things about Upwork, is that they have the review process. But even then, like, it'd be professional suicide for them to do that kind of stuff. But see, where's Taylor? The platforms are just tools, something that seems fun, and select the best tool you've got for the job. Yes. Coder Python says, funny enough, it's really not boring. There's a backend scripting language on Google Sheets. I've used the backend scripting language on Google Sheets called Google App Script that lets you automate tons of stuff for business. Coder Python, I have some app scripts that I've written that I wrote back in like 2014, 2015, where every morning I still get, it runs on a schedule. Like, a nice thing about app scripts is it's server based. You have no you don't have to set up a cron job or anything like that. You can just schedule something. So like every morning I get an email with a document template, and it has like a quote of the day. So I have a Google Sheet which has a bunch of like motivational quotes. It has a quote of the day on it, and it has like a template of like my goals for the day and all this stuff. So every morning at like 3 o'clock in the morning, it comes into my inbox, and it's all a Google script that I wrote like years ago. And I've had other Google scripts where I was like loading data from the the App Annie API, like of reviews. So I was loading everything into a Google Sheet and then having it post it to the website or something like that. So using it almost like a cron job on a server. The problem I kept running into was that sometimes my scripts would run too long, and there's that limit of like, I think it was 15 seconds or something. But no, I agree with you, CoderPython. It is cool. That's what I'm thinking. It's like a rare skill, and it's like a niche thing that if somebody's looking for it, that's probably really good. I would be very surprised if you'd be able to make some decent money from 5,000 active users. I'm not saying you won't be able to. Let's see. P2 is a personal identifiable information. Sorry about that, Angelina. Okay. Oh, well, in that case, I really don't know. If it's not personally identifiable, yeah, I'm not sure. I don't want to. It's whenever somebody asks a legal question, I don't want to get too in trouble, I guess. But yeah, I would imagine that's not so bad, right? Async says, as I didn't see effective revenue while I run AdWords for the last 3 months. Oh, async. Was that based on? Oh, especially as in generating invalid traffic. Okay, somebody copies my app. Okay. Yeah, I mean, you definitely want to get that app removed, though. Blog Tornado, Eric, is one impression per 5 minutes too little? Yeah, I think so. Let's see. Anis Rao says, best signal which we could pass for app ranking. Best signal. See, Fist Up was saying, we danced around the bikers. They got scared and then they left out. Oh, yeah, that's right. When the bikers came in. If you say the best language is HTML, I'm unsubscribing. HTML is not a language. That's one of the things. It is a protocol. I remember reading this once. Like HTML is not a language. It's it's markup, right? JavaScript is a language. Other things are a language, but I think it was HTML is not a language. Just kidding. Best signal we could pass for app ranking on the Play Store. I still think it's you. So Anis, you got like the four. Your app has to be found first. So before we talk about the screenshots or the icon or anything like that, it has to be found. So you have to think about what people are actually looking for and what would they be typing into search and how can you rank for those searches. So it's more of the keyword type of things. Like, what are people searching for? Can you get that, whatever that term is, can you get it in the title of your application? Is it overcrowded? If it is overcrowded, then maybe you think of something else that either something, whatever, something else to do. But yeah, I assume that's what you mean when you say signal. Blog Tornado, thanks, bro. No problem. Oh, Boris is talking. I see. First of all, said the actual question isn't which language is best, but rather which language has a better ecosystem. That's true. That's really true. Like, if you were to use a language that was so obscure, then first of all, if you were a language that was so obscure and somebody needed that and you were the only person to provide that skill, you'd be able to charge a lot more money until nobody needs it anymore. I remember talking to somebody once about Visual Fox Pro developers, where they had to go, like, there's only one company that would do stuff in Visual Fox Pro, and they paid them loads of money to do it. And it was like, so there's something to be said about, like, when you're learning a new language, like, what has a bigger ecosystem? When somebody says, have you checked out this framework or this language, and I've never heard of it, and I can't find any documentation on it, then I kind of shy away from it because I'm thinking I'm just going to run into problems. I remember, Coco 2DX was Coco's 2DX. That's right? Where there was a JavaScript version of that, and I was like, oh, good. I don't want to use the C++ stuff. I want to use the JavaScript version of it, and so I was looking into it, and it was like, oh yeah, they did have this framework, but there was like very little documentation. A lot of stuff was like, coming soon, and it was like, I don't really want to go down that route, just because of the ecosystem. Peter, thank you. No problem. Ranking up. Let's see. With all the fuzz around Google and Apple, do you think their cut will go down to something more reasonable? 5 to 10% maybe would be nice. Yeah, you know what? I never heard back on my applying for the small business thing at Apple. I think their cut will go down. I don't, they're still, they're the ones. It's their platform. I think the only thing that will make their cut go down is if is a competitor that comes around that takes it away from them. And I don't see anybody having the infrastructure to do that just yet. Pay up to what to do. Yeah, I think we talked about it. It's there's a lot of things to consider. There, Anis. Let's see. Chad says you've written. By the way, greetings from Bosnia and Herzegovina. Hey, thanks, Jasmine. Bosnia and Herzegovina. That's awesome. Async says there's another question of the two messages. Another question of two of the messages. I'm not sure I understand what it is you're asking, Anis. I'm not trying to ignore it. I just want to make sure that I understand what it is. Templating languages. Yes, templating language. Language equals required compilation. Script equals no compilation required. Is that true? I never heard that one before. I think that because I think a language. I mean, it has a syntax. It has, yeah. I don't know because JavaScript. I would definitely consider JavaScript to be a language. Templating language. Okay. Zero Supremacy says, actually, for my money, there's no better language. It all depends on what you've been doing since one has a pros and cons. Yeah, and again, it goes back to the ecosystem, right? If you're doing app development, then it's going to be different than if you're doing web development, if you're doing server-based development. It's nice when something merges them. The reason I like JavaScript was is because I could do client-side web with it, and I could do the server, and then eventually I could do apps with it through Ionic and stuff like that. And so it was a language I could do all this kind of stuff, but it didn't serve the purpose that well, like in an app. Like it was okay. I mean, it was good, but it wasn't like the core place. It was like more like it was shoehorned in. The same with Node.js. Node.js was the guy who I forgot the guy's name who did Node.js, but it was like I like the single threadedness of it and everything like that, right? But it was kind of like you take something that's meant for something else and you put it in this one thing. So a lot of it is that what's the best language for the thing that you're trying to do. Wawaru, hey, how's it going? Kamo says, almost finished developing my first app. How important is a good app name? Is it a good idea to change the app name in the future? Nah, you're fine. The app name is really important. I'm just kidding. So you want to have there's that you have the age-old question of, do you want a cool name or do you want a searchable name, right? Do you want to make something that's like, really cool and you're building a brand and it's unique, or do you want something that people can find, easily through search? Do you want G.I. Joe or do you want Soldier Man? There's that when I think about in the toy store where like there would be the kind of thing where my parents might pick up, but it's like, no, I like that one, but they'll be like, okay, I wanted lightsaber. I didn't want laser sword, like the one that was like the copycat, but it was like the one that they knew. So but the app name, so if you could try to find that happy medium between the two of them, and that's why subtitles are important and stuff like that. So ideally you give your app a decent name that when somebody talks about it and they search for it, it doesn't come up with a million different search options because it's reasonably unique. But so Ravi says, if it's a mobile app, then I have to provide access to my Git repo for the guy to work. I'm thinking to implement stronger NDA and contracts. What do you think? Does legality work? It's better to have it than not have it. Like when people talk about NDAs, they think, well, it's not worth the paper it's written on, but like at least you have something. And there's always a promise of more work, right? You want to make sure that dude, I got loads of projects in the pipeline. I got loads of stuff coming your way. Just we need to get this thing done, right? Because you give that extra incentive that if they screw it up, they're not just screwing you over. They're like screwing themselves over. but you have to put the guide to work. So like, yeah, I mean, you have to give the Git repository to them, I suppose. Yeah, I mean, it depends. If you don't trust them, then it's going to make everything difficult, right? I would, hopefully they have some reviews or some Trustpilot or something out there. Corfix says the problem is that there's so many apps that need Google Play services. Apple is pretty much locked down. Well, the languages are both interpreted and compiled. Yeah, that's what I thought. JavaScript is Google script, not a language, hence no compilation. Yeah, but C# is, you don't say C# language in JavaScript. JavaScript is a script because it's a scripting language. Scripting language is a term, right? It's like it has a word in it. Scripting language. V8 does some compiling in hot.js code that's called that are called often. Okay. What do you think about sponsored ads inside the apps? Ads not from AdMob but custom. I think that's kind of the way that they. Years ago, I went to an AdMob seminar, and that's one of the things that Google was saying, that eventually you get to the point, if your application is popular enough, then you go out and find your own sponsored ads rather than use AdMob. Because AdMob is, it's the lowest bidder or, highest bidder, whatever. There's a bidding system, right? So it's not going to be the most beneficial for you. But if you have an app that's like specifically targeted to one audience, and you could find a sponsor that's specifically looking for that audience, then them actually coming in and doing a sponsorship on your application seems like it would make more sense. I never did one, but I was talking to Sony Pictures about doing the Brothers Grimsby, the Sacha Baron Cohen one movie for the Ear Spy. I contacted them because I had the Top Spy application on Google Play at the time, and I thought the Spectre was coming out. This is how long ago it was. But they were really interested. Like, we had meetings and everything. I did a proposal, but in the end, it didn't go through. But there's definitely, something there to think about. Not that clear cut, I think. Mobile App 7 says, hey, Eric, is it worth asking users for a consent and show personalized ads in European countries? I guess that users usually disagree. Is it worth it to do that? I think it's the law to do that, isn't it? I mean, it's, yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, I haven't heard of anybody getting in trouble for not asking, but like, I thought it was something we have to do. Carol VDW, why are you talking about Node.js if it's in the past? It's literally all I do at my job. No, I use Node.js all the time. It's like Express. Using Cloud Functions, is a lot of that is based on Express. No, but when it was first came out, it was like, it was a new thing, and people were saying, why would you want to use JavaScript on the server? Oh, JavaScript sucks. But JavaScript is like, it's a fluid language. It's a dynamic language, so you don't have to precompile it. You could I love that about it. I love the fact that I'm looping through a series of objects, and then I want to just attach a flag onto the object as I go through, saying process, and I don't want to have to go back to the original model and specify that variable, which is only used in that one situation of that one loop. I like the fact that I could take an object and transform it as I go, which means you don't have any type safety, which means compilation is like impossible, which means it makes some things really difficult to find these bugs and stuff. But yeah, no, I like Node.js. I far prefer. When it comes to server coding, Node.js is the language that I use. It's like the only language I use. So yeah. Let's see. DCZT says, my apps are in the Google Play Store, and I'm considering publishing them to the App Store. Is it worth it? Yeah, it is. Yeah, you're talking about there's a whole nother user base out there for it. So yeah, I would say definitely. Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying it's going to do better, but like, you're talking about like a whole half the market out there. I mean, it depends on your country. Like, we've done a video before. We looked at like the different market shares in different countries. If you look at the US and the UK, it's like 50-50 Google. iPhone and Android. If you look at like other countries, it could be like 80% is Android, and globally Android is like 80% of the market share. But let's see, Google is now taking 30% out of the IAP as well. That's like daylight robbery. They've always been taking out 30% of in-app purchase. Morris Taylor says, correct me if I'm wrong, but like I don't remember. Okay, so since 2012, I don't remember them ever not taking 30% of my in-app purchases. Morris Taylor says, can indie iOS apps access DRM protected media like song and movie files? For example, doing face recognition on an iTunes movie you purchased and downloaded. That I would imagine that would be copyright infringement without any kind of permission. But yeah. I think it's a bit less on yearly sums, but it's way too much. DZT, if your app is doing well on Android, it would be worth it, I think. I think so too. But if the app is not successful on Android, I would focus on getting it successful first before writing a new version for iOS. Yeah, that's true. I mean, yeah, you might as well. It's not like, if it's not doing well on Android, it's not like you're going to go to iOS. Oh, it's possible. It's possible that you'll hit an iOS. But let's see, unless you're using a cross-platform framework, of course, which then it's easy peasy. Yeah, it should be easy peasy, but most of the time it is. Okay, cool. Hey, everybody, thanks for joining the live stream this week. Really appreciate it. Thanks for all the thumbs up. Also, for those guys who stuck with. And I hope you guys have a great week. I'm going to go get some dinner, I'm not going to get takeaway because I've been doing that way too much. But I'm going to get put something on the oven and have some dinner. And I hope you guys have a great weekend. Oh, there's one more question here, which is, hear a lot of building MVP quickly and testing it with users. What do you think about using UI prototype to get user feedback instead of having to test iOS released in test flight? Always, if you can, because that's the bit that gets you at the end, right? You could, like, the code is easy. I mean, the code is easy, but like, when you have a user, it's like, okay, and it's better to have them, like, everybody knows what you're trying to do before you achieve it. So anyway, yeah, definitely, I definitely think, Ju, that you if you can, right? Sometimes as developers, it's easier just to just mock something up in code, but and take some screenshots. So anyway, everybody, thanks very much for joining the thanks for everyone for joining the live stream. That's it. I'm going this time. I'll talk to you guys next week. Have a great week ahead.